Recording now. Welcome everyone. Today it's like October 30th, 31st. It's kind of a Halloween because tonight I have Selma here that's going to introduce herself, and the veil is very thin tonight. It's a very, very special night. Okay, so I'm Sandra Alexei from Game Changer and from my personal muse. Okay, and this is all about self-discovery and relationships. And I am so impressed and so happy to have Selma as a kindred spirit on my journey of self-discovery at this particular time in my life. This is a very powerful time. Okay, you can explain about the veils. We have a Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. We have a Mars retrograde. Things are opening up. People are going really, really deep right now. But the amazing thing is when I talk about self-discovery in Game Changer, what we talk about is 8 different areas, and you answer the questions and you find out a lot about yourself. But what Selma is going to share with you, okay, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Selma, is what she's going to share is the very deep spiritual element that is very important. And now I'm going to let you take over, and I would like you to tell everybody where you are and what your background is, and then I'm so excited to hear this. Thank you, Selma. It's all yours.
Thank you, Sandra, for the platform. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here and to be a part of what you are trying to do right now. Well, it's a very long story with me. I'm currently living in the Gulf in the Middle East, but I've lived in 9 countries by now. And seriously just been all over the place ever since I left my own country, Portugal, at 25 for the first time to go to London to study. I honestly don't know where to start, because at the time at 25, I was just looking to leave into the world, to discover the world and to just leave my tiny little shell. I come from this middle-class family. I'm the daughter of what in Portugal people would call returnees, which are refugees, but which were considered to be returning into the country, refugees from the former Portuguese colonies in Africa, who went to the country returned to the country in the 1970s, returned even though they, like my father lived in Africa. He was born in Portugal, but he lived in Africa for 14 years, and then he returned to Portugal as a war refugee. So I'm that generation who's been dealing with what recently I've come to understand is they call second generation trauma. They call it second generation trauma. When your parents are refugees, apparently it's like in your DNA as well. And because, you know, you've had to live with all the stories being told over and over again by your family. So there's a trait of drama to your life.
Right.
And we don't talk about it, and it's only very recently that I understood that it's a thing and that it's called second generation drama. So as a result, you never feel like you belong anywhere, because you don't belong in Africa because you've never even stepped foot in there. Well, actually, in the meantime, I've gone to Egypt to see the pyramids, like most middle-class people have. But there's no connection other than the DNA. So you don't belong in there, you don't belong here in Europe, in your country where you were born and raised. You don't ever feel like people totally see you like one of them. And so you grow up with this kind of sense of misplacement, of feeling misplaced wherever you are, no matter where you are. So I've always felt very misplaced in my own country, and it's nothing that people would do specifically. It's just how you feel. I mean, of course, there were instances of bigotry and racism and being insulted at school, like most Black and mixed race children, like all Black and mixed race children go through in school. That's what happens in school. Everybody gets bullied here and then. Unfortunately, it's a part of the paradigm, of our paradigm on this planet. And then I go to the UK because I studied archaeology, history and archaeology. And then I went to London to get this master's in archaeology. And I pretty much just wanted to be a museum person and a social scientist. I worked in museums for a while. I worked as an archaeologist for a while, but soon enough, 2007 came in with a financial crisis. So there were practically no jobs in my own country. And again, in England, I was in English. So, you know, when it comes to culture, the first jobs go to, well, if we're in England, the English people,
Right.
and then the foreigners. So as a result, because in the heritage sector, there aren't many jobs anyway, most of the heritage sector jobs, if not all of them, in a country go to the people of that country first, right?
Right.
And so foreigners like me don't stand a chance. So that's when I started teaching for a living. And ever since, I've taught everything. I've taught English because I got a certification to teach English as well, on top of the masters and the bachelors and whatnot. I've taught, and currently I'm teaching history and geography. I've been teaching history and geography for a while now, which to me is way better than teaching English, which I enjoyed and had a lot of fun with because I'm a natural communicator, but it's obviously not what I studied and wasn't interested in. In the midst of all of this, I found myself doing corporate in Hong Kong for a while. Don't ask me how. It's been my life. I just wanted to get out of mainland China because culturally it was a huge shock for me. And I was all alone in there. And so the first job I got in Hong Kong, I went for it. I was there for a few months, horrid months, because I cannot stand corporate. The worst thing you can do is put someone from the social sciences doing like a corporate job. And then I went to teaching. That's when I actually started teaching. It was in Hong Kong as well. While I was in this corporate gig in Hong Kong that I completely detested and which was making me completely miserable, I was constantly having experiences where I would see Native Americans all over the place. And I would dream of Native Americans for some reason. And I was listening to the music. I was obsessed. I understood then that it was me trying to evade my very constrictive and restrictive environment, offices in Hong Kong and people, women in high heels and the men with the suits and the craziness, and also feeling all of the energy of these people. It's especially caging for people who come from the social sciences or new agers to put themselves into that kind of setting and environment, because as we know, corporatocracy and the corporate world breeds a lot of sociopathy. So most of those people are actually very sick. And I could feel that. I could feel their sickness. And people just talking about going out every Friday and Saturday and just getting pissed out of their heads, pardon my French, just getting completely drunk and doing drugs. And so that was the corporate culture at the time, you know, because the job was so numbing, so mind numbing and meaningless. People would do drugs and go to prostitutes and and drink heavily all the time just to try and forget, right? And
Right.
so it's completely toxic culture. So it was killing me just being around it. So I'm evading all of a sudden into a space of, I see Native American culture all over me for some reason. I don't know why, because I don't have any DNA connection that I know of. And sure enough, and I see wolves, I'm surrounded by wolves, and I'm constantly dreaming of wolves. And I was in a place of a lot of suffering. It was complete and utter depression. I didn't know my place in the world. I didn't know what to do with myself. I can't work in museums or the social sciences anymore. What am I doing? Corporate what? Should I then try teaching, since I did get this certification? I don't want to be here. Like, what is this? I detest the world right now. I have no idea what my place is in it. And when you are in that sort of state, when you are lost, when you feel lost, you attract the worst kind of people as well, and the worst experiences to yourself, because all of a sudden you become prey to all the predators, right? And before you realize, you have all the predators around you, and you don't even know what you're doing hanging out with those people. It's like, what? And so in the midst of all that suffering, something clicked. And I think it was Eckhart Tolle the other day that I heard saying that some people don't even have to adhere to any type of meditational practice, don't even have to start meditating ever in order to just wake up all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And he was explaining that sometimes the suffering is just so bad that you just decide that you don't want to suffer anymore. That you just unconsciously make the decision of, I'm checking out. I'm not suffering. I refuse to go through this anymore. And so something snaps in you. Sometimes the suffering is just so big that something snaps in you. And all of a sudden, you're having all of these lucid dreaming and astral traveling experiences and wolves and Native Americans. And what is this? And why am I being called to Native America? I was getting called into the forest.
Right.
I was about to discover that I am this forest type of being, nature type of being, that I've lived in forests before, that I've had past lives where I was pretty much a forest person, and that there is an aspect of me actually which is down under, not in Australia, but under the ground, and lives very close to the core center of the earth. Not obviously not physical because it's too hot in there, but you know, it's this in this different dimension as what we would call spirit, as a nomad of energy. This interdimensional aspect of me lives there as a spirit crosser. I was about to discover all of that, but obviously I didn't in the moment. That was only the beginning that would set me off into a journey, a path where many years later, like fast forward 8 to 9 years later, I would piece things together and understand what it was all about for me, with the forest and the wolves. It's my connection to the cosmos on this planet is the forest and the ground, the earth, Gaia.
Right.
And I then read The Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions by Barbara Hand Clow, which is a book which was written in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, after 70s or 80s, but
right.
People feel free to correct me in the comment section. I don't remember now. And Barbara then made things make even further sense to me, in the sense that there's in the core center of the earth, that is where you find the direct connection to the cosmos. And the ones who establish that connection to the cosmos, the conduits, are us, human beings,
right,
through our energetic bodies, right? So through planting our feet, that's why when we plant our feet in the ground and we receive all these properties, these healing properties from the earth, the minerals, everything that we ourselves are made of. And we, through both our physical and energetic bodies, are the conduit between Gaia and the core of the universe, the core center of the earth to the core of the universe. And that's why in Hinduism and Buddhism, you have a practice called pranayama, which again, I've always done without realizing what it was. It was only until 2 years ago that this woman told me, oh, that's a pranayama. And I'm like, that's a who? What you do, it's like the kind of meditation that you are doing, which is to harness energy from the core center of the cosmos, let it fall through you and wash you, and go into the core deep center of the earth. And then that energy goes back in an ellipse, in the shape of an ellipse, goes back to the core center of the earth. So that's us basically recycling energy whilst keeping the connection between the core center of the universe, our universe, because there are many others, right? And the core center of our planet, right? We do that. We are the conduits, only we don't know, or most of us don't know.
Right.
Buddhists know that, or at least the people who actually do practice Buddhism and know pranayama, that this is what we are doing. This is what human beings are here to do, not only to protect Gaia, but also to keep this connection flowing between the core center of the earth and the core center of our universe, right? We are those conduits. So that's how powerful we are. I don't like the word powerful because it makes people have illusions of grandeur. That is how key we are to the system, to the whole multiversal ecosystem. That's how much we are it. It's not like we are a part of it, or it's not like we are connected to it. We are it. We are creators and creation, and we are our own creation as well. So basically we are God, what people on this planet call God. That's us. Right. The universe experimenting itself, again, as and that one is a cliche, but it's also true. So this awakening came to me without me having joined any practice at the time. This was 2012, and I was completely lost. It was just out of suffering that all of a sudden I started having these experiences of going to bed. And the first experience that I really had that was so blissful, that it made me understand for the first time, I do not have to live like this, because I am not this. This is just a movie, a picture. This is a movie that I'm taking part in. Was this one morning when this girl that I was teaching, this 5-year-old girl, who had the most wonderful English. She spoke like a New Yorker. It was so funny. This Hong Kong girl who spoke like a New Yorker because apparently her parents would take her to New York all the time. And she tells me, Miss, all is well. Just out of nothing, she tells me that early in the morning at 7-something a.m. And I'm like, huh? And then she starts singing this song. The lyrics, she couldn't, it was so funny. The lyrics were in Hindu. At that point, I didn't know. But it ended with a refrain that always said, all is well, all is well. And she kept on repeating that and saying that. And at one point I tell her, okay, can we just focus now for a minute because we need to finish the lesson. But I was so taken by her and by what she just said. And eventually when I got home, I researched and I tried to look because she said, you know, this is a song from a movie. So I looked for the movie, and it was an Indian movie where the song went like that, all is well, all is well. And on that same night, I had a dream where I'm listening to that song, but I'm not here. I'm in this other dimension. So that was my first lucid dreaming experience. People call it lucid dreaming here because we've all had lucid dreams. But the kind of lucid dreaming that I'm talking about is not just, it doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like that's your reality.
Right.
And it actually feels more real than this here.
Right.
When you wake up, it's a type of lucid dreaming. We call it lucid dreaming, but we call it dreaming. But it's actually us checking out into these other dimensions. Because when you wake up, you look around and you understand that none of this is real. So that is how shocking the experience was to me. So this other place I'd gone to was pretty much what people would call I've researched in the meantime, and I've come to understand that some people call that astral cities. And actually, astral city research is big in countries like Brazil, because as you know, Brazil is a very spiritual country. In the places in the world where people suffer the most, that's where they tend to become the most spiritual.
Right.
And people suffer a lot in Brazil. They're surrounded by predators in Brazil. But anyway, so it was what people would call an astral city. It was simply, and what are astral cities? Later, and because I'm a researcher, I used to be a social scientist, remember? Later, I have this Aquarian South Node, right? So I'm very much the scientist, or I am in other parallel lives, I'm a scientist. In this one, I'm a New Ager, which is totally messed up. But anyway, so I started understanding through researching a bit more. I came across this guy called Joseph Swedenborg, who, I kid you not, is Swedish. So he's called Swedenborg and he's Swedish. I kid you not. You can research him. He's real. Who was a physicist from the 17th century. He was pretty much a Swedish Newton, or Newton would be an English Joseph Swedenborg. And he was very revered. He was very revered as a scientist. Sorry, from the 18th century, I meant. He was very revered as a scientist, but at one point he started having these experiences with astral projection and astral traveling. Of course, these names didn't exist back then. And he just said to himself, "Oi, I need to write about this. People won't believe it, but I don't care." He was quite old also by the time he started having these experiences, and he had a lot of money. So he did not care if people were going to shun him. Like, I don't care. I have enough money not to have to care.
Right.
And so he starts publishing these books where he tells of these experiences. And he basically tells of experiences like walking down the streets of Stockholm and all of a sudden checking out. And then he's walking down this one street, checks out. And then all of a sudden he's on this other street and he has no idea how he ended there.
How he got there.
So, and then basically what he explains is that he literally would check out of his body because some other entity would come in and walk around and do things for him. Right. So that he could go astral project and have these experiences in these other places. Now, astral projection, astral traveling, lucid dreaming, none of this language existed back then. Back then, all that Europeans had was religious, the Christian religious language. And so what he speaks of is going to these other heavenly realms, he calls them.
Right.
Because you use the language you have available at the time. So because of his Christian background, he says he goes to these heavenly realms and he's with angels and he's seeing these angels.
Right.
And these angels that come from these other realms, which are not ours, these other places, these realms. And after reading his books, you understand that he's talking about aliens, what we now call aliens. I mean, different words, same stuff, different words, same entities, same people.
Exactly.
Same people, just like us, right? They're not gods, they're not deities, they're not angels, they are people. from other dimensions, other planets. So he was astral traveling and he was astral projecting, right? It had so many experiences. It was just ridiculous. It reminds me of the experience that Giordano Bruno was this monk from the 14th century, Italian monk, who was also having these experiences. And at one point, he stepped out of his body during lucid dreaming, during what we now know to be lucid dreaming, and he's in the astral. And he was like, oh, and he looks back at planet Earth, and he sees this, this blue sphere. And he's like, oh, so I come from there. I come from that blue sphere.
Right.
And then he looks around and he sees all these other planets. So he had an astral traveling experience, right?
Right.
Because when you dream, it's astral traveling. When you have the experience while awakened, it's astral projection. That's a difference as well.
Okay.
Astral traveling. What does Giordano Bruno do? He decided to blurb it out in the 14th century, which is the worst decision of his life because he got killed. He starts going to all of these universities. He goes into the UK and he's giving talks about what he's seen. So basically he's telling people that the ancient Greek astronomers and geographers, some geographers as well, but mostly ancient Greek astronomers were right when they talked about the planets and the heliocentric model. They were right. But now we're in Dark Ages Europe, and the Catholic Patriarchy is having none of it, obviously.
Right.
And so eventually they catch up with him and murder him, and he's convicted. He goes to court, and he's like Galileo Galilei, the exact same thing happened to him. So before Galileo Galilei, you had this guy called Giordano Bruno. From time to time, you have people in every single generation having these astral traveling and astral projection experiences, but they are either silenced by the religious dogma or the scientific dogma. And because now various people dismiss the religious dogma, we know better now, let's say a person says, I'm a Catholic, but I know that the heliocentric model is real, right? At least in Europe, I know that the US is having a huge problem with people with flat earthers and people who think that the world started 10,000 years ago, right? But at least in Europe, people have kind of accepted that, that we've been around for longer and so long and so forth. But anyway, but now we have the scientific dogma, which is we have all of these scientists also having experiences, physicists, quantum physicists, biologists, whatever, but they cannot talk about them. They cannot speak on their experiences because they will because the system, the establishment, the academic establishment will remove their grants.
Right.
Because it's not acceptable to talk about those things. It's considered woohoo and new agey to look into those things.
Right.
So the word in the current scientific paradigm, which is highly dogmatic, almost like religion, the human science of the 21st century is religion. It's not science, it's religion, because they are highly dogmatic and prejudiced. And so the establishment, not the scientists themselves, but the scientists are tied down to the establishment, where if they talk about any of this, they lose their grants, their research grants, and they are pretty much cast aside. And Barbara Hand Clow, in her book, The Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions, which I love this name because I'm all about alchemy as well.
Me too.
The alchemical process, right? Barbara Hand Clow, she actually speaks of this. She says, I've had so many conversations with scientists who have actually helped me write this book, but I cannot disclose their names because if I do, their careers go to the bin. They're going to be ostracized by the academic world, right? Now, the question is now, Sandra, do I have any evidence to my experiences? All the aliens that I myself have spoken to, the other planets I have been to over the course of my astral traveling experiences, because I mostly astral travel. I don't astral project. I don't like astral projection. It's too scary. Again, because my body is awakened, so it can't handle it too well.
Right. So
I told you an experience the other day, right? Yeah. I prefer astral traveling because it's a smoother process, because you're already in lucid dreaming state already anyway. Your soul has already left your body and it happens in a soft, smooth way. There's no sudden, right?
Yeah. See, the interesting thing is I don't think that you need to validate it. I believe that you are, how can we say it, is when you know, you know. And that's just it. So people can say, well, she's whatever, woohoo, whatever. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because the moment I seen you, I knew that there was something about you. And everybody is searching right now. Everybody's going to courses, they're doing books, or I'm going to run around and dance, and I'm going to open my third eye, and I'm going to do all of this kind of stuff. And that's why I wanted to showcase you, because there is different ways, and sometimes it just happens. Okay.
No,
And it just happens. I always say, when you're ready, it was part of your destiny. If I look, because I've looked at your chart, so it's this whole Aquarian. We're moving into the Aquarian. Jupiter and Saturn go in December. That's what Game Changer was based on, an Aquarian model of relationships. My first books were all Spawn Salon Alchemy. It was all about the alchemy. So it's all coming together right now. And so this is really your time. So now this is your time to assist other people in their process. I have not heard your process, and I didn't want to hear it. I wanted it to be shared tonight, especially right now. And you can say how the veil is very thin right now. And there's a lot of people, I've had a lot of calls today. A lot of people are just, they're like this, okay? And I want them to know how they can get a hold of you, and you can do a session for them. You can tell us how you got into what you do right now, and maybe help them on their path. Because I know lots of them have spent thousands of dollars, thousands, and they've spent years, and they jump from here to here, to here, to here, to here, to here. I've always been focused, and mine came a lot like yours. There was a lot of suffering, and it was just being at the right place in the right time, and things needed to move. That started when I was 2 years old. Okay. And I'm the same as you. I don't really like, I've gone out a lot like you do, hey, and I know I'm somewhere else, but it's very uncomfortable when I'm here and all of a sudden I'm in a different place.
Yeah. And can I tell you that not being given an identity, not being stuck in the concept, in the fake concept of earthly 3D identity, is a blessing. It was very painful for me for most of my life, until I understood after my awakening, or after I plugged into the quantum and realized I feel out of place here, not because I haven't been attributed an identity, black, white, Portuguese, Angolan, whatever, Viking. I feel out of place. I've always felt out of place here, because there is no need for an identity, and human beings are so hung up on identity. And I feel like this is a really important thing for us to say now in the current times, where people are clashing, are having identity clashes. I am Viking, and I don't want you in my country because you are a brown Muslim or whatever. I've been Scandinavian for I don't know how many centuries. You've been Scandinavian for this lifetime. In your previous lifetime, you were probably African. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Just like I have been Scandinavian in previous lifetimes, and African, and every single other thing that you can possibly imagine. So people waking up to the fact that what we call reincarnation is also real is seriously important for the evolving of these species. Right. Because right now people are so fast fighting each other because they don't understand that they have been it all. No one has been Latin for I don't know how many years. No one has been French for I don't know how many thousands of years. No, you've been French for this lifetime. Calm down. Okay. Calm down.
This is perfect.
Yeah. I mean, probably in the previous lifetime before that, you were English. You don't like English people. In the lifetime before, you were probably English and hated the French during the 100-year war. Do you know what I'm talking? And because that is exactly how it usually works. Right. That is exactly how it usually works.
Right. So the bottom line is I always think of a person, because I talk about with the nodes, you know, the nodes, you're on the other side, you choose your parents because you're going to come to learn, blah, 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 whatever, we go on. But the bottom line is you're an energy being. So an energy being to me is I don't know what color you are. I just know that you are an energy soul and that you are here finding who you are, because that's what you come down. You come down here and say, oh my God, I'm so excited. I found my parents, or this is who I'm coming through. And I have to teach and I'm going to learn. And so it's like our whole process of who am I and why am I here? And the whole idea of the who am I is I am an energy being. I'm a soul essence that doesn't go on. And I love where you say yes, could have been an Italian, I could have been here, I could have been there, and everybody, Sandra, you can't say those words. You know, I'm so tired of that. And another thing is that there is evil and there is good. There is dark and there is light, and that's part of the issue right now. And so people to say, Sandra, that's not right. It's about unconditional love and evil. Now, so you can talk about that.
No, I mean, the thing with evil, it comes from fear. I was before, when I was mentioning identity and identity being a fake construct, it all has to do with the fact that we as a species, we don't want to let go of all of these fake constructs that we have built for ourselves over the course of our experience of duality. Right. Good and bad, black and white. All of a sudden you see a mixed race person for the first time in I don't know, 16th century Europe, and you're like, oh, so the world is not black and white. You see what I'm trying to say?
Right, right.
So we've held on to those fake constructs for so long, and a lot of people are still doing that, hence the cultural clashes and that we are seeing all over the world, that we just don't want to let go and evolve, so it can evolve to the next stage where we are, you know, what astrophysicists call the type 2 civilization, which is pretty much a civilization of who got it together, but who got it together because we've already understood what you were talking about, that we are all energy, and that there is such a thing as reincarnational cycles, and that we've been to this place many times before, and that what we are wearing right now is literally just a bodysuit, a suit of meat and minerals, and it's a very important suit because it's serving us very well. It's serving us in this lifetime. So it's a very important suit that should be indeed revered because it serves us. It allows us to, you know, to be in the physical experience. But we cannot be hung up on it, on how we look, on how our parents look, our cultures, all of that cultures, nation states. It's all of those are fake constructs. People don't want to let go of them. And I understand it's going to take a while, and the ones of us who understand that will have to be patient because things are not going to change fast enough for us, you see. But we have to respect the natural process of a species evolution. We need to respect the natural process of the human project, as I usually call it.
That's interesting. So what about if we're moving from a carbon-based 3-dimension to a crystalline-based 5th dimension? But I love Barbara Hand-Cloud's work, but I haven't seen this book. I'm going to go and get it. So we're all a 7th dimension, 9th dimension, whatever. So there is a shift in consciousness because everything is consciousness. And so all I know is when Pluto came in 2007, it said, I'm going to destroy all the societal structures, everything that are based upon greed, power, corruption, evil, lies, deceit, whatever, or one better being the other, or there is this hierarchy, okay? And I think that we're in the middle of that. And this is why I think right now, Selma, is so important, because people are trying to find out who they are or what's going on with me.
And the interesting thing, you just said, Pluto just destroyed all these structures, is that when you break a vase, everything that it contains spills out. So all of the darkness that we had inside is spilling out, and it's boiled up to the surface. That's why you see people getting beheading other people now in France. That's why you see all the prejudiced and bigoted people coming into social media in bulks more than ever now to spill the vitriol, all the vitriol that they had inside that they could not contain anymore, because the vase has been broken. And so everything that was inside it is completely spilled out. Even the other day, this friend of mine was telling me, wow, is it just me or the Karens and the Chads are especially active on social media right now? And I'm like, yes. And it is all a part of the transition that had all of that goo that was inside those people who were in that type of suffering and in that type of energetic pollution had to leave. It had to be exposed and surface, exactly so that both they and us can stand it and then clear it.
Right.
That's what's happening now with the full moon to all of us. My goo, your goo, everybody's goo is surfacing and boiling up.
Right. And so personally, we can't point our finger, is take responsibility for it. Okay. Okay. Which is really going to be the Aquarian once we hit December 20th, 21st. Okay. It's totally different. But the bottom line is collectively, we are purging all the gunk and the evil, and it's, some of it is incredibly evil and people don't want to believe it. It just,
we were talking about beheadings.
yes,
Like in how much of a rage do you have to be? How desperate and rageful and resentful and do you have to be able to do anything like that to another human being?
Exactly.
This is century and millennia accumulated rage and pain and suffering and anger. This is it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and I think if people can understand that, and so I'm not sure how long we've gone, and I want to know what more you can say, if you can give them some tips, and I want people to know how they can get a hold of you. Okay, so I have worked with you, we have exchanged work, and you've done a lot for me. It was just amazing, the revelations that I did. And for me, it's not about, yep. I need to have I have a strategy. I need to have something that I need to work with. And the bottom line is, I have studied a lot, just as you've studied a lot. Your skills and whatever, we're forever being downloaded. We're forever knowing, because we are here for a purpose. Okay, so now we know where you live, we know what your background is, we know what you do. If you want to tell them what you do when you do a session with them, number one, and then number two, how in fact once you do a session with them, as we talked the other night, maybe one day you are going to do some workshops and that type of thing on, so people understood what the difference was, Astrotravel, Astroprojection, and on lucid dreaming and all of that kind of thing is. That might be a separate part, but I don't know. That's up to you. But if you,
that is a lot. Yeah. But
let's
try. Yeah, let's indeed try. So I would like to start by responding to that with first saying, remember when I said that of course I can't prove any of it. I can't give you evidence of my lucid dreaming and astral traveling experiences because they're personal experiences. You're not in my head. And scientists haven't yet come up with a way of filming our dreams and so I can't. But actually they have, but the technology hasn't been made available. But anyway, so it's not about that. I then understood, Selma, it's not about that, because if the world progresses, if everybody within the course of their own process experiences the same awakening, then obviously no one will have to prove anything to anyone, because we will all know, right? And so, but I understood then, I'm a Virgo, and I said, I want to work with this. I want to work with what people now call the New Age. So I need a practical tool. And I've been reading tarot cards ever since I'd been like 19. By the time I experienced at 36, I looked back and I said, I read tarot cards. Maybe I should start reading cards for people. I'd been reading cards since I'd been 13. I was then 30 something. And that's when I understood, I think I have my tool. I've been having my tool all the time. It's been looking at me in the face all this time and I hadn't seen it. And while studying the meanings of tarot cards, I understood how potent a tool this is. Not just potent, not just because of the fact that it has the iconography, the pictography, the drawings that help us make sense of what is happening to us here in the 3D, but for instance, the major arcana are cards which are directly connected to the cosmos. When you study the tarot, you understand that the people who came up, who designed tarot decks, were pretty much just trying to make sense of our connection with the cosmos as well, and how what happens on the other side, on these other dimensions, has a say in this dimension as well. And so, for instance, the person who designed the tarot deck, which is pretty much the basis for most tarot decks now, for more tarot decks that we have now, was called Pamela Coleman Smith. She designed this tarot deck called the Rider-Waite Tarot deck in the early 20th century. based off tarot decks like the old Renaissance tarot decks, like Le Tarot de Marseille and the Scarabeo, which is the Italian Renaissance tarot deck, based off those, but she wanted to make those easier to read for people.
Right.
Those other tarot decks can be quite pictographic, and with the Rider-Waite, what she did is that she just drew people all over the place in scenes, like movie scenes, like theater play scenes,
Right.
so that people could read better, so that people could have an easier time reading tarot decks. And she basically, starting with the journey of the Fool, I was surrendered with, I completely surrendered. It starts with the journey of the Fool, which is us basically arriving on this 3D experience and going like, where am I? Where do I come from? Okay, do you know what? I'm gonna jump. Our soul's jumping right into the experience, right? And so it goes and goes and goes and goes, and it culminates. When the experience culminates with the last card of the tarot, we go back to being the Fool and we start all over again. Now, if this is not an expression of the reincarnational cycle, I don't know what it is.
Right. Right.
Start all over again, but now with a different energetic signature, because we've engaged in things over the course of this lifetime that have changed, that have shifted our energetic signature. And that's why in each life we are someone different, because even though we carry things from our previous lifetime, we now have a different energetic signature because our energetic signature was altered by our previous experiences. And I keep speaking in terms of previous and former, but we all know that there's no time on the other side, that it's more like an onion, a layered onion, right? And it's the cycle, the journey of the Fool. So I understood that I'd found my tool, that a tool had already been designed by someone else for me and for people like me. So this woman, Pamela Coleman, I'm like, thank you. Because without knowing, in her lifetime here in the early 20th century, she was designing the tool. Oh, she was designing a tool for tarot readers. No, she was designing a tool for human beings.
Right.
To understand that experience on the planet. And again, do you need it? Do you need it? No, but you can use it. That's the thing. It's there. It's available to us. We can use it. And so that's when I started reading cards for other people as well. And that's what I do now. I'm a tarot reader because it's my tool to express everything that I know about the other side through my experiences. So my readings are slightly different from a reading of a person who hasn't had these experiences.
Right.
I'm not saying that they're better, they're just different.
Very different.
And I always tell people, if this is your thing, fine. We vibe with whom we vibe. We don't vibe. If you just want to know if your husband is cheating, go to that tarot reader, because they will tell you point blank, he's cheating, he's not cheating. I will tell you, yes, he's cheating, and yes, he's cheating, but I will give you a bit more. I'll give you way more on top of that. I will give you what is led to this situation and what is ahead of you and the choices you will have to make, the options you have in order to leave the situation if you want to, or stay in the situation. It's all about you. That's right. And that's the other thing. The tarot is not for prediction, because we have something called free will. So the tarot gives advice. It gives you the answers. It gives you the context and the reasons why you are in the situation where you are. It tells you how you have reached the point where you are. And it gives you the options that you cannot follow. If you follow this option, you will more than just probably have this outcome. If you follow that option, you will more than just probably have that outcome. So if someone asks me, will I get a divorce? The other day, for instance, I had a client who asked me, will my husband and I divorce? When I looked at the cards, I told her, listen, in a couple of, I don't know, I think it was in a couple of years, it will reach a situation where, I mean, it's dead, where it's just dead. And then it will be up to you, because your husband will leave it in your hands. It will be too comfortable to do anything about it. And then it will be up to you to make the decision of either to stay in a dead relationship or move on.
Exactly.
It's your decision. And actually the cards were very explicit in saying he will put it on your hands. He will put it on your hands. In 2 years, there'll be a situation, an event. It seems like it could be 2 years. There'll be an event. There'll be so explosive and catastrophic. There'll be like a tower moment. We called it tower. Right. It was a tower moment. There'll be an event which will basically just say, it will be the writing on the wall saying it's over. There's no way back from here. And then the decision will be left in your hands. Your husband will leave it in your hands to either end it or proceed with it. And I told her also, can you end it now? Yes, of course. It is always about free will. And it's your decision. The cards just told us it is your decision. Your husband it doesn't care that it's dead. It's just comfortable for him anyway. But if you're not happy with it, yeah, the cards are saying that even if you don't do it now, in 2 years, it will become so clear that you can't run away from the fact that it's dead. But it's ultimately our decision, free will. So I also tell people that the tarot is not so good with predictions because, as you know, with astrology, there are things which have been already contractualized.
That's right. Yeah.
But those are the main trends.
Right.
Those are the trends.
Free will.
Exactly. Exactly. Those are the main trends. Those were the events that we, on a soul level, contractualized for ourselves so as to be the triggers to the decisions that we then would have to make, right? So they would be the triggers. So this is what I do. Basically, you're asking me about what I do. People can contact me on truthlightarot@gmail.com. truthlightarot@gmail.com. They can also go to my YouTube page, which is also called Truth and Light Tarot. Truth and Light Tarot.
And what we're going to do is I'll put that in the hashtags.
Yes, definitely.
So that they do know. And I do want to say right now, one of the biggest things is about relationships right now, because we've got this big Venus thing going on and people are digging deep at themselves. And that's the whole thing. Are you going to stay and be comfortable and it's like they're dying? To me, they're zombies. Or are you going to, and it's their choice. I always say it's your choice. And so I really recommend whoever is listening now that this is a prime time. This is the start of a new decade, 2020. This is our year. Okay, now what's going to happen in 2021? Okay, I mean, I can tell you there's going to be Aquarian stuff going on. I'm going to do a thing. We do the moon thing all the time. But if you do want to have a real personal reading about this, I really suggest that you contact Selma. Okay.
Thank you very much. But I should alert people that I go in deep, like with relationships between siblings or romantic relationships. I go to, other lifetime connection. What is it that has happened in this other lifetime that has brought about this connection that you have now in the situation that the two of you have now going on between each other? I go very deep into it because of my experiences with astral traveling and lucid dreaming, because I'm so aware of the other side. I can't read for someone without going and fetching the information from the other side as well. So I always alert people to that. I go in deep. So if this is what you want, fine. If not, fine, because
if they don't want it, then don't contact
other people who cater to that. Exactly. But I go into these other dimensions. I don't just say in 3D. That's what I wanted to say.
Right, and that's true, and that's why I love you. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank you so much, and everything will be in the hashtags. And again, Game Changer makes a really good gift. And also, I would really appreciate it if you would comment on this video. There's a comment place if you would like, and if you would share, and if you would subscribe. And this will be the last one for October, but I'm offering a free mini reading for anybody that comments. So I take their name down and I put it in a little draw, and so you will get that draw, and all of Selma's information will be in the hashtags, and you can get a hold of her, and I will be interviewing her again. And I just love it. Thank you so much. And tell them why it's so exciting tonight about the veil, because the veil is...
Oh, Sandra, it started for me. Has it started for you?
Yes.
There you go. Because it's what I was telling people on my channel. With full moons, it starts way before, both on these other dimensions and realms and in this one. You can see it with the events around us, right? Like, it's total insanity. It's complete insanity.
I know.
This is what it's going, and it's escalating towards the full moon. It's escalating. It's with France and this. So for me, it started a couple of nights ago when I was crossing over spirit. I'm new in this apartment where I'm living now, and sure enough, I knew I had felt a presence before, but I hadn't seen it. and as we get close to the full moon, you can't, because the veil is so thin, like you said, Sandra. And so for the first time, I saw the people who were in my apartment. And I saw this grandpa, this lovely grandpa who had no idea where he was. And I'm like, Grandpa, I think you're on the other side now. There was this couple who I had a feeling, because this apartment where I am is in a hotel complex.
Okay.
So I got a feeling that couple, it was the weirdest experience. It was a drunk couple that opens the door, and I'm like, oi, I live here. This is my apartment now. And he's like, oh, sorry. And he leaves. And then all of a sudden, so this is when I step into these other dimensions because I get out of bed and I think that I'm in 3D, but I'm not. I'm in 5D now. So I'm having these experiences, right? Again, through what people call lucid dreaming, but it's not dreaming. It's you literally stepping out into this other dimension. It's still my bedroom, but I'm now in 4D. I'm now in 4D, and that's why I can see spirit and these other souls and energy nomads. So eventually they opened the door again, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I live here now. This is not your apartment anymore. And they're all drunk, this couple, like European couple, European looking. And they're carrying like these food that look like 7-Eleven food, as drunk people do, like like this. And I'm like, oh my God, you don't live here. And as I'm herding them back to the door, and they go like this. I'm like, oh, I'm in 5D. I'm in 4D. I'm no longer in 3D. I've done it again. I don't think these people are alive in flesh and blood. Oh, MG, their spirit. I need to cross them over.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to say. So there is a time, because I've had to do the same thing, is help them move over.
Yes, exactly. Then that's what you have to do.
And you have to do.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. And so that's when I wake up. Sometimes I do it during the experience because I have time. Other times I wake up before I can do it. So this is what I would advise for people to do. If you wake up before you can cross them over, because with the grandpa, and I'm holding his hand, and I'm like, oh, Grandpa, like, he had no idea what had happened, what had hit him, literally.
Right.
He was just telling me, I was going to work. And I was like, oh, shoot. And so, but I woke up, I snapped out of it, and all of a sudden I was in my bed in the 3D. And so what you do when you don't have time to cross them over on the other side is that you light a candle on this side, and you speak to them. But you do, like, out loud, you speak to them. You meditate. You can meditate first if you want to bring yourself into the zone, to be in the zone. Speak to them and tell them all the things that we know we have to say when we cross over a soul, right? So just letting you know that you are no longer here in the physical with us, and you need to leave that limbo. You need to go home. So try to look for a light, because on the other side of that light, there will be a helping hand of your astral family, or an angel, or whomever it is for you. They are there on the other side, waiting for you to understand that you are no longer on this side. Right. So take their hand so you can go home to that place of love. When it's a soul that I see has a lot of darkness and suffering to them, I also tell them all the love that you did not have the chance to experience here, it's all in there waiting for you. And it's what you are made of, brother, sister. It also helps to say, I see you, I love you, and I see you. You need to bring a lot of love energy into the situation to release their darkness when it's a soul that has been pervaded. Because usually when spirit is stuck, there is darkness to them. That's why they're stuck.
They're earthbound. Yeah.
Exactly. The darkness can come from fear, usually from fear, like people who have done something nasty in this lifetime, for instance, and believe that if they cross over, they're going to go to hell because that was their religious teaching, for instance, right? Right. Or people who have just simply, like this poor grandpa, have not yet understood that they've crossed, that they're no longer in this other side. They're just confused because our culture does not teach us how to die.
Right. And you see, Selma, that was the greatest gift I was ever given. When I was 3 years old, my grandpa, I lived right next door. And I think I told you this, and I just have to share this. He would come over every night. He was an old Swedish man, and he would say good night, and I'd sit on his knee, and he had this beard. He had been a Swedish sailor and traveled the world, okay? Very, very eccentric man. And I loved him. We were very connected. And I only found out maybe 20 years ago how old I was at the time, because he went home that night and he said goodbye. He didn't say goodnight. So he went home. It was on the same property. And what he did was he sat on the Chesterfield, and I guess he said to my grandma, Jenny, I have to go when you can't come. 6 months to the day, she went over. But now we're at his funeral. And in those days, there was a coffin, okay, and everybody's standing around, and they lifted me up to see Grandpa. And they're all yapping, and that they say that poor little girl, she's going to be so sad, her and her grandpa. And I'm looking around and I'm talking to Grandpa. I went, oh my God, these people are so dumb. 3 years old. They are so dumb, Grandpa. I know that you've just gone away. Never, ever forget that. And so that's why I can work in dying rooms. And I say to people, don't hold the soul. Let them, it's just the body, it's just our costume, it's just our body. And so I think that's really important. And people are, and I know I have people say, I want to get in touch with the other side. I want to do this. I'm suffering my brother. And I go, that's really sad that you do that. So I think you could do a whole, maybe a workshop on that. You know me and my creativity. It's just like I could.
I will, yeah, I will have to be doing those things. I know.
Yeah, because I think, yeah, I think it's really important. And I want to say thank you so much. And I wish everybody a magical Halloween. We're in that energy, and it's going to be beautiful. And just be gentle with yourself. And what can you say to everybody? That's my word for them. And I want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra. I would say chances are that over the course of this full moon, you will be confronted with some kind of darkness that you may still have to clear or purge in yourself. That's also another thing that's been happening to me. Okay?
Yes.
Just the other day, I had this lucid dream where I was like being really aggressive to this woman whom I felt was prejudiced towards me. And I was like, oh, Karen, I'm done with you. I'm going to kill you. And then I woke up and I was like, I had that inside me still. I have that inside me. So, I wasn't happy about what I'd seen about myself. I had to purge it. I had to clear it. I feel like this full moon will be mostly about that. We've seen again about, we can see it through the events around it already, and the events that are preceding it and which are also going to follow it. This full moon is all about clearing whatever rescue, whatever tiny little bit of goo we still may have in us to purge, to clear. So if you do come across nightmares, what we call nightmares, experiences like that, know that it's just your astral team putting up these scenarios, making up these scenarios for you, putting you inside these scenarios so that you can be faced with whatever it is about you that you may still have to clear. So don't be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Just understand that it's not real. It's just a fake scenario. It's just a scenario that has been put in place by your upper soul, your higher self, and your astral team, so you can face something, stand it in the eye, something about yourself that you may have yet to clear. So the next day, if you have those types of experiences during this full moon, which many of you I know will have, the next day, don't beat yourself up. Just understand that that was a darkness that you just had to clear. And now it's been cleared because you stood it. That's all. You've stood it already, so it's been cleared. And all you have to do is just, again, light a candle, do some meditation work, and thank your astral team on the other side and your higher self and yourself for having been brave enough to stand that darkness that you had to clear. And you'll see actually that after this full moon, the people who had to purge, clear some darkness like I had, like most of us, if not all of us have to right now, you will feel a lot lighter.
Yeah, you will. And it's interesting because, so the full moon is at 8 degrees of Taurus. The sun is at 8 degrees of Taurus. That's what always happens. But the joker or the game changer is Uranus, is at 8 degrees. And that's the one that is like lightning and is the awakener. So it's really saying, okay, we're going to shake things up. Okay. Then after this, we move from a Taurus. We're going to have a new moon in Scorpio, which is again that.
Uh-oh, Sandra, what are you telling me now?
Well,
And it's
no,
amazing because yesterday I said in my channel, I feel like the next few moons will be even more intense. Oh shoot, Sandra in Scorpio?
yeah. Well, and I have a moon in Scorpio. I know what it's like.
You know that.
Yeah, both of us do. And I have a South Node. That's right. But we have to understand, if we can take this and cleanse this now,
Yes.
release this now, that Scorpio new moon is going to be there to support us.
Yes.
Support us in what we have let go of, and to show us new ways. And so as we release the new things
Oh.
coming in, it's actually going to be beautiful. But we could talk all night. And so what I'm going to let everybody know is thank you from the bottom of my heart. What a wonderful time. And you guys, we planned this especially for you on this night. And where Selma is a long way away, when I'm here in Canada, and we're still on this Halloween and on the full moon. So I'm going to take my glasses off here, and thank you, and happy Halloween and happy full moon.
Happy Halloween. Bye.